I discovered my girlfriend had been secretly paying her ex-partner's rent for 2 years. When confronted, she admitted they talk weekly but said it was not what I thought. I was devastated and ended things. Weeks later, what she revealed changed everything. I'd been at Claudia's place less than 5 minutes when I picked up her tablet. It wasn't even on purpose. I was just trying to charge my phone before the meeting, but it died halfway through checking my emails. I didn't think much of it until I saw the notification. Lease, Ventura Avenue, $950. 00 miles. I froze, a wave of irritation flooding over me. Miles? Who the hell was Miles? I didn't even know how to process that. I knew about her interior design business, of course, but no one named Miles ever came up. Not in casual conversation, not in any of the plans we'd made, and especially not when she talked about financial struggles, how she couldn't even go on weekend trips because her budget was tight, how we'd been splitting rent, even though I knew my salary was better than hers. Claudia, I called out, trying to sound casual, but the tension was already seeping into my voice. She didn't answer right away, and I stared at the screen again. It was a recurring charge, not a one-off. That meant it had been going on for months, maybe longer. Claudia, I said again, my voice firmer. She appeared from the bedroom, wiping her hands on a towel, not even looking up. What's up? I couldn't help it. I held up the tablet, pointing at the screen. Who's Miles? She stopped dead in her tracks. Her eyes flitted to the tablet, and then back to me. Her expression didn't give anything away, but I felt the shift. She knew exactly what I was asking. I've never mentioned him, have I? Her voice was soft, but there was a hitch in it. No, I said flatly. I don't think you ever have. She hesitated for a beat too long before letting out a shaky breath. It's complicated. Complicated, I said, the word tasting bitter in my mouth. Complicated how? She walked over and sat down at the kitchen counter, her face scrunching up like she was trying to hold back something. Maybe shame. Miles is an old business partner, she said finally, her eyes not meeting mine. From my early design days. Okay, I said slowly, not sure where this was going. But why are you paying him almost $1,000 a month? She winced, clearly knowing that she wasn't going to be able to make this sound good. Look, it's just. He's struggling, Ethan. Really struggling. He's got this studio on Ventura and you're just helping him? I cut her off, already annoyed that she was trying to paint it as some noble thing. Her lips pressed into a thin line. It's not like that. I promised him that I'd help him out. He's been a big part of my life. Anyway. We had a lot of plans together before things fell apart. She was speaking more to herself than to me, her voice getting quieter. He's just trying to get back on his feet. He's been a friend to me. I stared at her, not entirely understanding. So you're paying him rent? And it's nothing romantic, right? Exactly, she said a little too quickly. I swear, Ethan. It's just financial help. Nothing more. I could feel my stomach twist. I didn't want to push her too hard, but the questions kept coming. How often do you talk to him, Claudia? I couldn't help myself. Because this looks weird. She swallowed, then glanced at her hands, her fingers fidgeting with the fabric of her sleeve. I don't talk to him all the time, but every few days, maybe once a week. I laughed, a sharp sound, not even bothering to hide the bitterness anymore. So, once a week, you talk to him about what? About how his studio's going, or about how you're really doing. Her face turned pale, and she stood up quickly, pacing back and forth. Ethan, it's nothing like that. It's not. She stopped mid-sentence and took a shaky breath. I just didn't think it was relevant, okay? I didn't think you'd understand. You've always been about, I don't know us. We were building our thing, and I didn't want anything to mess it up. I shook my head, the confusion in my chest turning into something darker. So you kept this from me for 2 years, Claudia? 2 years? And you didn't think it would be relevant to our relationship? She hesitated, her gaze flicking around the room like she couldn't hold my eyes for too long. I didn't want to complicate things, okay? She said finally, a hint of frustration edging into her voice. I thought if you knew, you'd just judge me. Or worse, you'd think I was still tangled up in something that wasn't even a real relationship. I was just helping him out. Because that's what I do for people I care about. That's what I've always done. My blood ran cold as I processed her words. You've always done this. I repeated. I don't think I meant to sound as harsh as I did, but there it was, out of my mouth. You've always been someone who keeps these secrets? Someone who's afraid of telling me the truth. She froze. And for a moment, I saw the vulnerability in her eyes, the same look she had whenever she wasn't sure how to navigate my anger. It wasn't a secret, she said quietly, almost pleading now. I just didn't want to hurt you. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my composure, but it felt impossible. But you did hurt me, Claudia. You did. I don't know who this guy is, but you've kept him in the dark for so long, and now I'm the one feeling like a fool. Her face crumpled as she stepped closer, her voice barely a whisper. I'm sorry, Ethan. I'm so sorry. But the damage was done. I wasn't sure what part of me was more broken. The fact that she'd kept this from me, or the realization that I hadn't known her as well as I thought. Either way, there was a chasm between us now, and I couldn't just ignore it. Claudia, I said, my voice flat. I need to think. I need some space. She stepped back, nodding slowly, but she didn't speak. And in that silence, I knew things would never be the same again. I walked out of Claudia's place without another word. The door slammed behind me, loud enough to make the walls shudder. But it wasn't the sound that stayed with me. It was the weight of everything that had just been laid out, hanging in the air between us. I wasn't sure how I felt walking to my car. Angry? Betrayed? More like both. The knot in my stomach hadn't loosened, and the cold rush of frustration pushed me to the edge. How could she do this? Keep me in the dark for so long, pretending everything was fine, while she had this secret? I didn't even bother checking my phone until I was in the driver's seat, hands gripped so tight on the wheel my knuckles went white. The screen lit up. Messages. Dozens of them. Apologies, explanations, attempts at reaching out. A few from her, but most from her number I didn't recognize, random contacts trying to get through. I shoved the phone into the glove compartment and slammed the door shut. I didn't want to see any more of it. I tried to breathe, but my thoughts kept spinning, back to the same thing. She'd kept it from me. All this time, she'd kept me in the dark, like I was some outsider in our own life. I hit the gas harder than I should have, speeding down the empty streets. My eyes flickered between the road and the dashboard, watching the miles stretch out like a reminder of how far apart we'd just become. When I finally made it back to my place, I just sat there for a minute, staring at the door. There was no point in pretending I wasn't already furious with her. No point in acting like the evening hadn't just shattered whatever illusion of trust I'd been holding on to. I reached for my phone, but it buzzed again, and for a moment I almost let it go to voicemail. Then I saw her name flash on the screen. Claudia. I didn't even let it ring once before answering. Ethan, she said, her voice soft, but I could hear the tightness there. Please, let's talk. I rubbed my forehead. I didn't want to hear it. Not yet. I wasn't in the mood for excuses. I don't think there's anything left to talk about, Claudia, I said, trying to keep my tone even, but it came out colder than I expected. There was a long pause. A breath on the other end of the line. Don't say that. I know this looks bad, but please, you've got to believe me. I didn't want to hurt you. Hurt me? I repeated, more to myself than her. You think I'm hurt? I laughed, bitter. You've lied to me for months, Claudia. You've been paying some guy I've never heard of while telling me we're building a life together, but you're too busy to talk about him. And now you're sitting here saying, I didn't want to hurt you. Jesus, you've got to be kidding. I could hear her breathing heavier now, trying to find the right words, but I wasn't having it anymore. I wasn't going to sit and listen to any more excuses. You lied to me. I continued, my voice tightening with every word. You kept this from me. That is what hurt. Not the money, not the damn studio you're paying for. The fact that you kept this secret is what's killing me. She exhaled sharply, and when she spoke again, there was desperation in her voice. Ethan, I was trying to protect you. I didn't want you to think I was still stuck in something with him. I didn't want to make you feel like you weren't enough. Enough? I snapped. I wasn't enough? Is that what you think this is about? My hands were shaking now, gripping the phone so tight it felt like it might break. I don't need your charity, Claudia. I don't need to be coddled. I needed honesty. But you couldn't give me that, could you? Her voice cracked a little, and it stopped me dead. Ethan, please. I know this is a lot to take in. I did make a mistake, but I didn't mean to hurt you. I didn't say anything for a long moment. I felt the anger winding down, but I couldn't figure out how to untangle the mess in my head. You should have told me about him, I finally said, the words almost too difficult to force out. That's all I needed. The truth. Just tell me the truth, and we can figure this out together. But you chose to hide it. And now I don't even know who you are anymore. There was a long silence. I'm sorry, she said softly, but I could hear the shakiness in her voice. I should have told you. I thought I could fix it before it came to this. I was so scared you wouldn't understand. I was trying to keep our relationship, safe. I wanted to feel bad for her. I really did. But in that moment, all I could feel was frustration. Betrayal. I took a deep breath, letting it out slowly. Claudia, I can't do this. I can't be with someone who's keeping secrets from me. I can't. Not anymore. I could hear her stifle a sob, but I wasn't about to take it back. I couldn't. I need some time, I said, voice harder now. I need space. I ended the call before she could say anything else. The finality of it hit me the moment the silence settled in, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't feel the weight of her presence or the pull of our relationship. It was gone, and I was left standing there in my own damn house, not knowing who I was anymore or how I even got here. I hadn't even been inside for 20 minutes when my phone buzzed again. I didn't want to look. I didn't want to know, but I did anyway. It was a message from Claudia. Please, Ethan. I'm sorry. I'll do anything to fix this. Let's just talk. I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering over the reply button. The words almost came out automatically, but I slammed my finger down on the delete icon instead. I couldn't deal with her right now. Another buzz. Then another. I ignored them, but it was impossible not to feel a flicker of guilt. She was desperate. I could hear it in every message. But I couldn't let that pull me back in. Not when she'd spent the last 2 years treating me like a fool. The doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. I ignored it at first, hoping they'd just go away. But then the knock came. A quick, insistent series of bangs that I knew too well. I opened the door to find Claudia standing there, clutching a bouquet of flowers in one hand and a small handwritten card in the other. Her eyes were red, and she looked like she hadn't slept in days. Ethan, she said, her voice shaky. Please, can we just... I didn't let her finish. What the hell are you doing here? My voice came out sharp, cold. I hadn't expected the anger to hit me like this, but it did, and I didn't care. I'm so sorry, she said, taking a small step toward me, holding out the flowers. I need you to know how much I regret not telling you. Please, just listen to me. I never meant for any of this to happen. I stared at her hard. You think flowers are going to fix this? After everything? She winced, like she knew it was a stupid gesture, but she didn't back down. No, but I didn't know how else to make it right. Please, we can work through this. I promise I'll make it up to you. I'll do whatever it takes. You're the only person I've ever wanted in my life. I didn't feel the warmth I was supposed to. I felt nothing but the rawness of the last few hours, the tension between us thick enough to choke on. I didn't take the flowers. I didn't move. Claudia, just stop. Her face fell, and I saw the hurt flash in her eyes. Please, let me explain. I shook my head. You've had 2 years to explain this to me. You've kept me in the dark the whole time, and now you want me to believe that it was all just some misunderstanding? That I was the one who misunderstood? She opened her mouth to speak, but I held up a hand. No, I can't do this. Her voice caught. Ethan, please. We've been through so much. I love you. I don't want to lose you. I felt something inside me twist, a mix of anger and confusion. Love me? I spat. If you loved me, you would have told me. You wouldn't have kept me at arm's length all this time. You wouldn't have let him be part of our lives without even a word. Her face crumpled. She stepped closer, almost pleading now. I didn't want to hurt you. I thought if I could just make everything work, keep it from falling apart, that we could build something together. That we could be enough. But it wasn't enough, and I didn't know how to tell her that. How to explain that the trust between us had shattered into so many pieces. I didn't know if I could ever put it back together. I stepped back, the weight of everything crashing down on me again. You should have told me the truth from the start, I said, the words coming out tight. I can't just forget all of this. I can't pretend like it didn't happen. She reached for my hand, but I pulled away before she could touch me. I need space, Claudia. I need time to figure out what the hell just happened, because right now, I don't even know who you are. Her eyes welled up, and she looked at me like I was some kind of stranger. I never wanted to hurt you, she whispered, voice barely audible. I just wanted to protect us. I wanted to feel something. Maybe pity, maybe compassion. But all I could feel was the suffocating weight of betrayal and the bitter taste of regret. I don't think you ever really knew what you wanted, I said, turning toward the door. I couldn't stand looking at her anymore. You just wanted to keep everything the way you wanted it. But this isn't just your life, Claudia. It's mine too. And you can't make those decisions for me. She didn't say anything else. She just stood there, her shoulders sagging, the flowers still in her hand, as I closed the door softly behind me. I stood there, leaning against it for a moment, trying to catch my breath. But the weight in my chest didn't lift, and I didn't know if it ever would. The following days felt like I was in a fog. I went through the motions, worked, ate, tried to sleep, but my mind kept circling back to the conversation with Claudia. I couldn't shake the image of her standing in front of me, tears in her eyes, begging me to understand. But what was there to understand? She lied. She kept secrets. She chose someone else over me. I tried to focus on the work piling up at the office, but every time I looked at my phone, I saw the missed calls. Dozens of messages. I knew what they said without even reading them. Sorry, let's talk. I'll make it right. But I couldn't bring myself to respond. Not yet. So, when I saw her name flash on the screen again, I didn't hesitate to answer. This time, I wasn't angry. I was just tired. Ethan, Claudia's voice cracked. Please, I need to talk to you. Can we meet? Just hear me out. I rubbed my temples. I'd been avoiding this moment for days. I didn't want to hear her excuses, but part of me knew I had to face this, to get the full story, whatever that meant. Fine, I said, cutting her off before she could beg. One meeting. That's it. We agreed on a coffee shop near the office, neutral ground, nothing personal. She was there when I walked in, sitting by the window, clutching a thick folder in her hands. It was hard to miss the tightness in her posture, the way she barely made eye contact when I sat down across from her. I didn't think you'd agree, she said, offering a shaky smile. I know I don't deserve this. I didn't respond. I couldn't find anything to say that didn't sound like an accusation. So, I just watched her open the folder and slide it toward me. Everything's in here, she said quietly. The truth. All of it. I stared at the folder for a second, unsure of what to do with it. But curiosity got the best of me, and I opened it. The first thing I saw was a stack of papers, medical records, the kind of stuff that looked like it was meant for a court case. My head started spinning. Claudia, what the hell is this? She exhaled slowly, her eyes darting from the papers to my face, like she was searching for some hint of forgiveness. Miles. He has a degenerative nerve condition, she said, her voice soft, almost apologetic. He can't work anymore. His doctors said it's only going to get worse. And that's why I've been helping him. It's not what you think. I wasn't lying to you because I wanted to keep something from you. I was just trying to help him. I skimmed through the medical papers, the reports on his condition. I didn't want to feel sympathy for him, but seeing the charts, the notes from his doctors, it was hard not to. The guy was clearly in trouble, but that didn't excuse anything. I tossed the papers back into the folder and looked at her, eyes narrowing. So, this is why you kept paying his rent all these months? Because you felt sorry for him? Her face softened, but her voice was firm. No, it's because I promised I would help him. I couldn't just leave him hanging. I couldn't. You should have told me. I interrupted, the frustration bubbling up again. You should have told me from the beginning, Claudia. I would have understood, I would have. But instead, you kept me in the dark like some kind of idiot. You didn't trust me enough to be part of this. You didn't trust me enough to be part of your life. Her eyes flickered with guilt, and she quickly wiped her face. I thought I could handle it. I thought I could do both, you and him, without anyone getting hurt. But now I see I was wrong. I should have never kept this from you. I clenched my fists, trying to keep the anger from rising up again. I don't know what's worse, Claudia. The fact that you were hiding this from me, or the fact that you were willing to let this guy control so much of our lives without me even knowing. She flinched, like I'd slapped her. I didn't want him to control our lives. I swear. Ethan, I thought if I could help him get back on his feet, then it would be okay. I didn't think you'd ever want to be a part of that. I leaned back in my chair, taking a long breath. There was something in her words that made me pause. Maybe it was the desperation in her voice, or maybe it was just the weight of everything I had been ignoring for too long. But you did, I said finally, lowering my voice. You did think I'd want to be a part of it. You just didn't trust me enough to say anything. You thought you could handle it on your own. You thought I'd just be okay with whatever you decided. She looked down at her hands, shoulders slumped, like the weight of my words had just hit her. "I'm sorry," she said, barely above a whisper. "I was wrong." I sighed, rubbing the bridge of my nose. I wasn't sure if I could even look at her anymore, not without seeing everything that was missing. The trust, the transparency, the respect, gone. I wasn't sure how we could ever get it back, but there was still something I needed to ask. I needed to know if there was more. I opened the folder again, flipping through the papers. There had to be more than this. There had to be something. Then I saw it. One last piece of paper stuck at the back. It was a copy of a birth certificate. I froze, the words jumping out at me before I could process them. "Claudia, what is this?" My voice was barely audible, my heart skipping a beat. She didn't answer right away, and for a moment, I thought I'd imagined it. But then she spoke, her voice barely a whisper. "Ethan, I didn't know how to tell you. Miles and I have a daughter. Her name is Celeste." And just like that, everything fell apart. I stared at the birth certificate in my hands, the name Celeste staring back at me like it had been printed there just to destroy everything I thought I knew. A daughter? She had a daughter? Claudia wasn't looking at me anymore. Her eyes were glued to the table, her hands folded in her lap, like she was waiting for a punch she knew was coming. She stopped herself, then started again. "I didn't tell you because I didn't know how. It complicates things, Ethan. Complicates things." I could feel my chest tighten as I gripped the edge of the table. Complicates things? "Claudia, you kept this from me for over 2 years, and now you're saying it complicates things?" She nodded slowly, still not meeting my gaze. "I didn't want to burden you. I thought we could figure it out on our own, without dragging anyone else into it. But I see now that was a mistake." I slammed the birth certificate onto the table. "A mistake? You think this is a mistake?" The words were coming out too fast, too sharp. I couldn't stop myself. I felt like I was choking on the whole damn situation, every word from her making it worse. "I have a right to know, Claudia. You didn't just keep some financial issue from me. You kept a child from me. A kid, who, by the way, is yours. Our future, apparently, but I had no idea she even existed. I never meant for you to be in the dark about her," she whispered, her voice shaky now. I didn't know how to tell you." I couldn't process the wave of confusion and anger that hit me all at once. "You didn't know how to tell me? Claudia, you've been telling me everything but this. And you think that makes it better?" She looked up at me then, finally meeting my eyes, but there was no softness left in her expression. "I didn't want you to think I was choosing her over you. Miles has been a mess for years. He's not the kind of man you can count on, Ethan. But I had to help him. I had to." I shook my head, my mind spinning. "So you've been playing this part for how long? A couple of years? Supporting him, paying his rent, and all this time, you've had a kid with him? And you didn't think I'd need to know about that? The fact that you've been tied to him for her?" Claudia winced, like every word I said was cutting deeper than the last. "It wasn't like that. It's not. It wasn't about him and me. I swear to you. It was about her. About Celeste." I rubbed my face, trying to calm myself, but the anger kept rushing back in waves, relentless. "And now what? You want me to just accept that? That you have this whole life you've been hiding from me? That you've been keeping me in the dark about your family? About this child who's been there the whole time?" She leaned forward, her voice almost pleading. "I wanted to tell you. I just didn't think you could understand. I didn't think it would work if I told you everything." "That's the problem, Claudia," I shot back. "You didn't think. You never thought about how this would affect me. You thought you could manage everything on your own, without even considering that you weren't just keeping secrets. You were building a life that I wasn't even part of." "I wasn't building a life with him," she said quickly, her words coming faster, like she was trying to justify it. "Miles is a mess. He's not. He wasn't part of anything. This is about Celeste. I wanted to be there for her. She needed me. But you need me too, Ethan. And I didn't want you to feel like you weren't enough." I stood up abruptly, unable to stay seated any longer. I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to hear her excuses anymore. "I don't know who the hell you think I am, but I'm not some guy who's going to sit back and pretend everything's fine because you're trying to make it right. You've lied to me. You've built your own little world without letting me in, and now I'm supposed to just accept it?" Her voice broke as she stood up too, but she was too close now, and I wasn't going to let her manipulate this any further. "Ethan, please. I didn't want to hurt you. You don't understand. I was trying to protect us." Protect us. I laughed, but it wasn't funny. It was harsh, cold. You don't protect someone by hiding shit from them. You don't protect a relationship by pretending that everything is fine when you've got a kid with another man and you're paying his bills and Jesus. I felt like I couldn't breathe, like I was drowning in everything that had been kept from me. You've been lying to me, Claudia, and I don't know how I'm supposed to come back from this. I don't know how to look at you and not see everything you've been hiding. Her eyes filled with tears, and for a second, I almost let myself feel sorry for her. But then I remembered everything she'd done, everything she'd kept from me. I couldn't go back. Not from this. I'm done, Claudia, I said, my voice low, but it felt final. I can't keep pretending this is something it's not. You've built this life with him and with her, and I wasn't even allowed to know about it. You're not the woman I thought you were. You're not the person I thought I could trust. Her lips trembled as she opened her mouth to speak, but the words died in her throat. I shook my head and turned away, heading for the door. I need to get out of here. I need to breathe. She didn't follow me. She didn't stop me. And as I stepped outside, I couldn't help but wonder how much more I was going to have to lose. I walked for hours, no real destination, just trying to clear my head. I didn't feel like talking to anyone, and I sure as hell didn't want to deal with Claudia's messages. My phone was buzzing nonstop, but I couldn't bring myself to look. I already knew what they said. Apologies. Regret. Requests for a chance to explain. It didn't matter. By the time I got back to my apartment, it was late. I collapsed onto the couch, my eyes fixed on the ceiling. My thoughts were still tangled up in everything that had happened. The trust I'd thought we built, the promises that now felt hollow, all of it. I grabbed my phone and finally scrolled through the messages, mostly from Claudia, but there were a few from mutual friends asking what was going on. I couldn't focus on them for long, though. My mind kept going back to the one thing that didn't make sense, Miles. I tried to push him out of my head, but his name kept coming back, lingering in the corners of my thoughts. There was something about him, about their connection, that didn't sit right with me. I'd heard Claudia say he was a struggling artist, but if he was in such dire straits, how was he still managing to live in a place that cost $950 a month? How was he still part of her life, still getting her support, when there were other people in her world, like me, who weren't even allowed to know the full truth? I pulled up his name online, curiosity eating away at me. The search results hit me fast, more than I expected. Social media profiles, articles from local magazines, and photos. Lots of photos. Of him, of his daughter, of her, Claudia. They were all over his Instagram, in vacation spots, at events, hanging out at some beach house. My stomach twisted. I clicked through the posts, my pulse quickening as I read the captions. They were filled with words like family, blessed, love these moments, all tagged with hashtag grateful, hashtag family first, hashtag my girls. And there she was, Claudia. She wasn't just helping him out. She was integrated into his life. She was a part of it. Confusion turned to anger. I couldn't look away from the images, the captions that felt like some kind of betrayal. I had been part of her life, too, or at least I thought I was. She'd told me we were building a future, that we were in this together, but these photos told a different story. Claudia was living two lives, and I wasn't the one she'd chosen to be part of it. I clicked on one of the pictures, an image of Miles with his daughter, Celeste, and another woman. Her name was Mara, according to the tags. It was clear they were a family, and yet Claudia had kept her distance from that truth, too. In every photo I saw of them together, they were posed like the perfect family, Miles and Mara smiling, Celeste sandwiched between them, all three of them beaming at the camera. But where was Claudia in all this? I felt my blood boil. Why was she still paying for his life? Why was she still connected to him if he had a partner? If they were so together, why was Claudia still in the picture? There were no explanations, only more questions. I kept scrolling, looking for anything that might give me clarity. That's when I found it, a post from a few months ago with a caption that read, "Family picnic with my girls. 5 years and still in love." The words hit me like a punch. I could feel the air in my lungs turn cold as I reread them. 5 years. 5 years, and she never once told me about Mara? About their family? About this? I slammed the phone down on the table, my hands shaking. The anger I had been holding in for days was finally spilling out. I grabbed my jacket, stormed out the door, and headed straight for Claudia's place. I wasn't thinking. I wasn't planning. I was done being left in the dark. I was done feeling like a fool. I rang her doorbell, impatient, not caring who heard. She answered quickly, her face pale, like she already knew what was coming. "What are you doing here, Ethan?" she asked, voice shaky, but she didn't move to shut the door. "What the hell is this?" I demanded, pulling my phone from my pocket and shoving it in her face. She flinched when she saw the pictures, but her eyes didn't leave mine. "I don't understand," I said, my voice tight with fury. "You've been lying to me, Claudia? Lying. All this time, you've been hiding this family from me. And for what? So you could still play the part of the caring ex? What is this, some kind of weird arrangement?" She stopped, looking overwhelmed. "Ethan, I didn't mean for it to happen this way." "What way, Claudia? What part of this was real?" I felt like I was choking on my words, like I was suffocating in everything she hadn't told me. "How could you keep this from me? How could you just keep playing house with him, with his daughter, while we're planning our future?" She closed her eyes for a moment, and when she opened them again, there was something raw in her expression, guilt, regret, maybe fear. "Ethan, I didn't want you to see it like this. I didn't want you to feel less. I didn't want you to think I was still attached to him. I'm not." But I wasn't hearing her anymore. I was too far gone in my own anger, too tired of being fed half-truths. "You're not attached to him?" I repeated, voice dripping with disbelief. "Then why the hell are you still paying for his studio? Why the hell is his life still so intertwined with yours?" She opened her mouth to speak, but I cut her off, louder this time. "This is ridiculous, Claudia. All this time, I was here, right here, waiting for something that was never real. And you let me believe it. You let me believe we were building something, while you were still playing the perfect family with him." Her shoulders dropped. She took a shaky breath, but the words didn't come. She was defeated. "I can't do this anymore," I said, turning to leave. "I can't keep being your secret, Claudia. I don't know what this is, but I'm done." I didn't look back as I walked down the hall, my chest heavy, my mind still racing with everything I had just uncovered. I could feel the weight of the truth hanging over me like a storm cloud. And I knew, deep down, I was never going to be part of her perfect little picture. I barely made it home before my phone started blowing up again. I wasn't even interested in checking it at first, just staring at the messages, the missed calls, all of it. I had heard enough from Claudia. I wasn't in the mood for any more explanations. But then, my brother Jason's name flashed across the screen. I sighed, my fingers hovering over the button. I didn't want to talk. Not about Claudia. Not about any of it. But Jason had a way of getting me to pick up, no matter how badly I wanted to shut down. So I hit accept. "Ethan," he said, his voice low but firm. "What the hell happened?" I slumped onto the couch, staring at the wall like it would help me figure out what the hell was going on in my head. "What do you mean? What happened?" I asked, my tone flat. "I just found out Claudia's been hiding her whole other life from me. That's what happened." Jason was quiet for a beat, like he wasn't sure how to respond. "I don't get it. I mean, you've been together for years. What did she say?" "She didn't say anything," I snapped. "She's been paying some guy's rent for months, hiding a kid from me, pretending like we're building a future while she's still tangled up in his mess. I don't know what she's been doing, but it sure as hell isn't with me." "You sure you're seeing this clearly?" Jason's voice shifted. I could hear the skepticism in his words. "Maybe you're jumping to conclusions here. I mean, this sounds like a huge deal, but maybe you don't have the full picture yet." I felt my frustration rising again. "You're really going to sit here and tell me I don't know the full picture, Jay? She has a kid with this guy. She's been lying to me for months. I have every right to be pissed." "Yeah," Jason said slowly, "but just because you're pissed doesn't mean you have the full story. I get that you're angry, but are you sure you know all of it? She's your girlfriend, man. She loves you, right?" I clenched my jaw, not sure how to answer that. If she loved me, she wouldn't have kept this from me. She wouldn't have kept me in the dark about him. About her. Jason sighed, and I could hear the frustration in his voice now. "Come on, Ethan. She's not perfect, but I'm telling you, there's more to this. I'm not saying you should just ignore what she did, but don't you think you owe her a chance to explain?" I stood up, pacing now, trying to shake off the pressure building in my chest. "She had her chance to explain, Jay. She just didn't. She kept pushing me away, hiding things, acting like I wouldn't understand. That's what makes it worse. She was never honest with me, and I'm supposed to just, what? Take her back because she loves me?" There was a long pause on the other end, and for a second, I wondered if Jason had hung up. But then he spoke again, quieter this time. I'm not saying you should forgive her just like that, Ethan. But you've got to understand, sometimes people don't always know how to make things right. Maybe she didn't think you'd understand because of how everything looks on the surface. Maybe she was scared to tell you, and that's why she kept it from you. I stopped pacing, the words hanging in the air between us. Scared? Of what? Me? Of how I'd react. Maybe, Jason said. Maybe she didn't want to lose you because of something that wasn't about you. She was helping this guy, and she didn't know how to handle it. She didn't want you to think she was still caught up with him. That's all. I let out a bitter laugh, pacing again, the irritation starting to creep back. So, you're telling me I should just forgive her because she was scared? Just pretend like this doesn't matter because she was worried about how I'd react? No, Jason, I don't buy it. Look, I'm not saying you should just forgive her, but you've got to think about it from her side. She might have been trying to protect you, protect what you guys had. She probably didn't know how to balance it all. I'm just saying, maybe you don't have all the answers yet. Maybe there's more to this than you're seeing. I dropped down onto the couch, staring at the phone in my hand, torn between wanting to throw it across the room and needing to understand what Jason was saying. I don't know if I can go back to her after this, Jay. After everything she's kept from me. I don't even know who she is anymore. Jason's voice softened. I get it. I really do. But just take a breath, all right? Don't do anything you'll regret. You're not thinking clearly right now. I squeezed my eyes shut, feeling the tension creep up the back of my neck. What the hell am I supposed to do, Jason? What's there left to fix? You've got to figure that out for yourself, man. I can't tell you what to do. But if you love her, then maybe it's worth sitting down and getting the full story. Really hearing her out. Because, yeah, she made a mistake, but maybe this isn't the end of everything. The quiet that followed felt heavier than any of the arguments we'd had before. Jason had always been the one to tell me when I was in the wrong. But now, it felt like he was telling me to go back, to fix things with Claudia. And maybe, deep down, I wanted to. But part of me felt like the damage was already done. I don't know if I can do that, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I don't know if I can look at her the same way again. Jason didn't answer for a while. When he finally spoke, it was with the same calm tone that he always used when he knew I was about to make a decision I might regret. Just think it through, all right? Don't do anything you're not ready to handle. And don't let the anger make the choice for you. I ended the call without saying goodbye, my head spinning. I knew what I wanted. I wanted answers. I wanted to understand why everything had fallen apart. But in the back of my mind, I couldn't shake the feeling that no matter what Claudia said, I would never be able to unsee the truth. She had lied to me, and no amount of explanation could ever change that. The next day, I couldn't stop replaying the conversation with Jason. The idea of going back to Claudia and sitting through some kind of heartfelt apology didn't sit well with me. But something kept tugging at the back of my mind. Something Jason had said. Maybe there's more to this than you're seeing. I couldn't shake the thought. I couldn't just walk away without hearing the full story. So, despite every instinct telling me to avoid her, I made the decision. I needed to talk to Mara. I wasn't sure why. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the feeling that I had to get a clear picture of the whole mess, something that didn't come from Claudia's side of the story. I couldn't just take her word for it anymore. So, I did what felt like the last logical thing. I found Mara on social media, sent her a quick, simple message asking if she'd be willing to meet. She responded within an hour. Sure, when we agreed on a coffee shop downtown, somewhere public, neutral ground. I didn't know what I expected, but what I got wasn't what I thought I would. I was already there when she walked in. She was in her mid-30s, tall, dressed casually, but there was something sharp in the way she carried herself, something almost too put together, as if she was used to being in control. Her eyes locked on me as soon as she stepped in, and for a moment, I wondered if she knew exactly why I was there. I stood up as she approached, my stomach a little tight. Mara, I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Yeah, you must be Ethan. I nodded, motioning for her to sit. Thanks for meeting with me. I don't know where to start, honestly. She glanced at the menu, though I could tell she wasn't really looking at it. I get it, she said softly, her voice calm. Claudia told me you might reach out. You've got questions, and I get why. I didn't waste any time. I just need to know what's going on. From your perspective, I guess. She met my gaze without hesitation. You're right. It's complicated. But I'll be honest, Ethan. What you've heard from Claudia isn't the full story, not by a long shot. My heart skipped, a knot forming in my chest. What do you mean? Mara leaned forward, resting her arms on the table, her tone shifting from neutral to something more personal. Look, I get why you're upset. Claudia and I have our own history, but what you need to understand is that Miles isn't some charity case. He's the father of my daughter, and I'm still dealing with that. With him, and with Celeste. My head was already spinning. You're the one with the kid, I muttered, as it finally clicked in my brain. Celeste is your daughter. Mara nodded, her gaze softening just a little. Yes, and Claudia's been a part of our lives, but not in the way you think. I shook my head, trying to follow her. What do you mean, not in the way I think? She's been paying for his life, his studio, and you're telling me she's just been a part of your life? What does that mean? Mara's eyes flickered with something darker, something I hadn't expected. Claudia's been helping Miles, yes, but it's not about her still being with him. It's about her trying to make up for everything that went wrong in their past. You probably don't know the full story, but they were together before. A long time ago, and when things fell apart, she wasn't the one to walk away. Miles was. I froze. Miles was the one who walked away? That was news to me. So, she's been helping him this whole time because she feels guilty? Mara shrugged, her fingers tapping the table. I wouldn't put it that way. It's more complicated than guilt. It's about unfinished business. Miles had a lot of demons, and Claudia's always had this need to fix things, to help people. Especially people she feels responsible for. And maybe she feels she owes him. I don't know. What I do know is, it's never been about her and Miles being a couple again. I sat back, letting it sink in. The whole thing felt twisted, like a knot I couldn't untangle. So what does that mean for me? For us? You're saying she's been doing all of this for Celeste and Miles, but not for some. Reconnection? How am I supposed to understand that? Mara's expression softened. I'm not here to justify Claudia's decisions, Ethan. But what I can tell you is that Claudia has always put Celeste first. She's never tried to come between Miles and me. I don't always agree with her choices, but that's the reality. I took a deep breath, my mind still racing. And how do you feel about her being in his life like this? Helping him out, paying his rent, being a part of his world? Mara's lips tightened for a second, but she didn't hesitate. It's been hard. I'm not going to lie. I didn't like it at first. But then I realized something. Miles has always been like this. He can't be left alone. And as much as it drives me crazy, I can't just pretend he doesn't exist. He's Celeste's father. Claudia isn't doing this to undermine me. She's doing it because she thinks she can fix something. And maybe she can't, but she's trying. She's not perfect, but she's trying. I felt the weight of her words sink in, and for the first time, I wasn't angry. I wasn't sure what to feel, honestly. The situation was still a mess, but the clarity Mara offered shifted something inside me. Maybe it wasn't all about betrayal. Maybe there was something more here I hadn't seen. Something that wasn't about me. So what now? I asked, my voice quieter this time. Where do I fit into all of this? Mara met my eyes, her expression more guarded now. That's something only you can figure out, Ethan. You've got to decide if you can trust Claudia again. If this is something you can handle. But, just know, it's not all black and white. She's not some villain in this. She's just trying to make things right in her own way. I let her words hang in the air between us, trying to process it all. There was a part of me that still didn't know if I could get past the lies, the secrets. But another part of me, the part one wasn't ready to admit yet, understood something else. Maybe there was still a way forward. But that path was going to be a hell of a lot more complicated than I ever thought it would be. I didn't know what I was expecting when I walked into Claudia's apartment that night. I wasn't sure if I even had the strength to face her again, not after everything I'd just learned. But there I was, standing at her door, waiting for it to open. My heart was pounding in my chest like it was trying to get out. I didn't knock. I just let myself in. She was sitting on the couch when I entered, her eyes red and swollen. She didn't look surprised to see me, just tired. Her shoulders slumped, and I could tell she'd been crying, though she didn't wipe away the tears or make any attempt to hide it. You came, she said softly, her voice barely a whisper. I needed to hear the rest of it. I said, my voice flat, not giving anything away. I needed to hear the full story from you. Claudia took a deep breath, and I could see her fighting to stay composed, but it wasn't working. She ran her fingers through her hair and sighed. I know I hurt you, Ethan. I'm so sorry. I wish I had told you everything from the start. I didn't know how. I stood there, watching her for a moment, the silence stretching between us. I wanted to say so much, but I couldn't find the words that would make it all make sense. I don't know how to fix this, she continued, her voice breaking. I've never felt so stupid. I thought I could control it, that I could handle everything, keep it from falling apart. I couldn't look at her anymore. I turned toward the window, staring out into the street. Control it? Claudia, this wasn't something you could control. You've been lying to me, hiding things from me. You thought you could handle a whole other life without me knowing? Her voice was barely audible when she spoke again. I thought I was protecting you. I shook my head, my frustration rising again. Protecting me? You didn't protect me. You kept me in the dark. And now you want me to believe you were just trying to make everything work? I don't know who you are anymore. I'm still me, Ethan. I am, she said, standing up now, walking over to me. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I couldn't figure out how to be honest with you without it all falling apart. I turned toward her then, facing her fully. Claudia, I'm not asking for some fairy tale version of honesty. I'm asking for the truth. All of it. No more hiding, no more secrets. I can't keep doing this. I can't keep trying to trust you when I know you've been keeping things from me. Her hands trembled as she reached for mine, but I pulled back, not wanting to let her touch me. Not right now. Not like this. I'm done being your secret, I said, the words sharp as they left my mouth. I felt a pit form in my stomach. This was it. This was the moment I couldn't go back from. Claudia stepped back, her eyes searching mine, desperate for something. For forgiveness? For understanding? I wasn't sure. I don't want to lose you, she said, her voice cracking with emotion. I know I've made mistakes, but I'm sorry, Ethan. I want us to work. I want to build something with you. I just need you to believe me. I stared at her for a long moment, but nothing she said could change what had already happened. I had trusted her, and she'd kept secrets. I had built something with her, only to realize it was a house of cards, ready to collapse under the weight of her lies. I want to believe you, I said, my voice low, but I can't. Not anymore. Not when you've been hiding everything from me. Claudia's face crumpled, and I saw the hurt in her eyes, but it didn't change anything. She couldn't undo what had been done. She couldn't take back the lies, the years of half-truths, the silence when I needed her to be honest. I never meant to hurt you, she whispered again, her words barely a breath. But I was already walking away. There was nothing left for me here. Nothing I could salvage from the wreckage of what we'd built. I reached for the door, but I turned back one last time, meeting her eyes. I need something real, Claudia, and I don't think you can give that to me. Not anymore. She didn't say anything. She just stood there, looking at me like she was already starting to lose me. I left the apartment, the door closing behind me with a finality I couldn't ignore. I wasn't sure what came next. I didn't know if I'd ever be able to rebuild anything with her, or if this was the end. But one thing was clear. I couldn't keep living in the shadows of someone else's secrets. Not anymore. As I walked down the street, the weight on my chest slowly started to ease. There was nothing left to fight for. There was nothing left to fix. And for the first time in a long time, I finally felt like I could breathe again. I didn't sleep that night. Even though I was exhausted, my mind kept spinning, replaying everything. The last conversation with Claudia, the way she looked at me, eyes full of regret, as if she could somehow fix it with one more apology. But I knew better. I couldn't keep pretending like everything was fine when it wasn't. Not anymore. The next morning, I woke up with a headache and an emptiness in my chest. I got out of bed and went through the motions, shower, coffee, work. But everything felt muted, like I was walking through fog. I kept thinking about the future, but not in the way I had before. Claudia had been a part of that future, but now, I had to face the reality that I wasn't sure what came next. Around noon, I got a text from Jason. You good? I didn't even think twice. I typed back. Yeah, I'm fine. It wasn't entirely a lie. I wasn't completely fine, but I knew I had to start moving forward. I couldn't stay stuck in that mess forever. I needed space to breathe, to figure things out on my own, without someone else's shadow hanging over me. I spent the afternoon packing up my apartment. It wasn't just about getting rid of old clothes or cleaning up. It was about clearing out the remnants of a life I thought I was building with Claudia. I hadn't realized how much of myself I'd put into that, how much I'd let my own identity get tied up in her. But now, I was reclaiming it. There was something cathartic about the process. Maybe it was the act of physically moving things around, but with every box I packed, I felt a little more in control, a little more like myself again. Around 5, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was Claudia. Can we talk? I need to see you. I stared at the message for a long time, my finger hovering over the screen. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't sure what I felt, but I knew one thing. I wasn't ready to go back to any of that. Not yet. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. It wasn't my job to fix this. It wasn't my job to save her or save us. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was taking care of myself. Like I was putting my own needs first. It wasn't easy, but it felt right. I decided to meet up with Jason that evening. I needed someone who wasn't emotionally tied up in all of this. Someone who could help me keep my head straight. We met at a bar, one of the few places I actually felt comfortable. I ordered a beer and sat across from him, staring into my glass, trying to shake off the weight of everything. You look like shit, he said, looking me up and down. I smirked. Thanks, man. Real nice. He didn't laugh. He just sat back, his arms crossed, studying me. You're not fine, are you? I let out a long breath, staring at the bottle in front of me. No, but I'm getting there. Jason raised an eyebrow, clearly unconvinced. You know you don't have to do this alone, right? You've got me. I nodded, but the truth was, I didn't want to be a burden. I didn't want to keep dragging my shit onto other people. I wasn't the kind of guy who needed constant reassurance. But I did need something I wasn't getting from anyone else. I know, I said quietly. But right now, I need space, Jason. I need to figure things out on my own. He didn't argue. He didn't try to push me into any decisions. He just nodded, letting me sit in the silence for a moment. Fair enough, he said. But you're not alone. Don't forget that. I let the words sink in, feeling the weight of them for the first time. I wasn't alone. Maybe I was walking through this on my own, but I didn't have to carry it all by myself. There was still something solid beneath me, something to hold on to. The rest of the night passed in a blur of drinks and mindless conversation. I needed the distraction, and Jason knew that. But eventually, I felt my body start to relax, the tension in my chest loosening just a little. As the evening wore on, I found myself thinking about what came next. I wasn't sure what the future held, but for the first time in weeks, I felt a spark of hope. It wasn't about Claudia. It wasn't about what I'd lost. It was about me, about moving forward, even if it was one tiny step at a time. I didn't need to have all the answers. I didn't need to have everything figured out right then. But I was learning something important. I had the power to choose. I could choose what happened next. I could choose who I let into my life. And for the first time in a long time, that felt like enough.